What if everything you've been told about making money has been deliberately keeping you poor? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Has this ever happened to you? You work harder than everyone around you. You follow all the conventional advice about building wealth. You sacrifice your time and energy, yet somehow you're still struggling financially, while watching others seemingly effortlessly attract abundance into their lives. You might have even wondered if there's some secret that successful people know that you don't. Well, what you're about to discover might surprise you, because there actually is a hidden principle that's been buried in plain sight for decades. This isn't another get-rich-quick scheme or some mystical nonsense about wishing money into existence. This is about understanding a fundamental truth that the wealthy have, known for generations, but that's been systematically hidden from the masses. The reality is that your current financial situation has nothing to do with the economy, your background, your education, or even your work ethic. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what I'm about to reveal will completely shift how you think about money and success. The truth is that your financial reality is being created by something far more powerful than any external circumstance. It's being created by the beliefs you carry in your subconscious mind. Most people are unknowingly using one of the most powerful forces in the universe against themselves. Every day, millions of individuals are programming their minds for scarcity, limitation, and financial struggle, then wondering why they can't break through to the next level. They're literally repelling the very thing they claim to want most. But here's what makes this even more fascinating. This knowledge hasn't been lost or destroyed. It's been ignored by those desperately seeking quick fixes and feared by those who understand its true power. You see, when you truly grasp this principle, when you understand how to align your internal programming with your financial goals, something remarkable happens. Instead of you chasing money, money begins to chase you. This isn't about positive thinking or visualization exercises that leave you feeling good but broke. This is about activating a scientifically backed mental force that successful entrepreneurs, investors, and wealth builders have been using for centuries. It's about rewiring the very operating system of your mind to become a magnet for financial opportunity. What you're about to learn will challenge everything you thought you knew about wealth creation. It will reveal why some people seem to attract money effortlessly while others struggle despite their best efforts. And most importantly, it will show you exactly how to shift from being someone who works for money to someone money works for. The question isn't whether this principle works. History has proven its effectiveness time and time again. The question is whether you're ready to embrace a truth that will make you fundamentally different from the 95% of people who will remain financially stuck their entire lives. So what exactly is this buried knowledge that's been hiding in plain sight? And how can you start using it today to transform your financial reality? This hidden truth revolves around what I call belief with intention, and it's completely different from anything you've probably tried before. You see, most people think that visualization means sitting quietly, imagining themselves rich, and then waiting for the universe to deliver. That's not how this works at all. Real transformation happens when you understand that your beliefs, when charged with genuine emotion and clear intention, become the invisible architects of your reality. Think about this for a moment. Every single day, you're already using this incredible mental power, but here's the shocking revelation that most people never realize. The vast majority are using it completely backwards. They're unknowingly programming themselves for the exact opposite of what they claim to want. While they say they desire financial freedom, their internal dialogue is constantly reinforcing scarcity, limitation, and fear around money. This is why you might know someone who works incredibly hard, follows all the right strategies, reads every business book, attends seminars, and yet remains stuck in the same financial patterns year after year. Their conscious mind wants success, but their subconscious programming is running a completely different script. It's like trying to drive forward while the emergency brake is engaged. You might move, but you'll never reach your full potential. The hidden truth behind this self-sabotage is that most people have been conditioned to believe that money is somehow wrong, that wealthy people are greedy, or that they don't deserve abundance. These beliefs weren't formed overnight, and they certainly weren't chosen consciously. They were installed through years of programming from family, society, media, and personal experiences that created a fundamental conflict between what they want and what they believe they can have. Consider subscribing to this channel because we're diving deep into the hidden principles of wealth consciousness that most people never discover. This isn't surface-level motivation. This is the real programming behind lasting transformation. When your mind holds the belief that money is scarce, that you have to struggle to earn it, or that good people don't focus on wealth, it will literally create circumstances that prove these beliefs correct. Your subconscious mind is incredibly powerful, but it doesn't judge whether your beliefs are helpful or harmful. It simply works to make your external reality match. Your internal programming. This is the behind-the-scenes process that determines whether someone becomes financially successful or remains stuck. It's not about their intelligence, their background, or even their opportunities. It's about the quality of their internal programming and whether they're using their mental power to attract or repel the wealth they claim to desire. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because understanding the problem is only half the journey. The real transformation begins when you learn how to identify these limiting programs running in your subconscious and replace them with beliefs that actually support your financial goals. Most people never realize they're carrying these invisible barriers, which is why they keep hitting the same walls over and over again. The decisions you make about money, the risks you're willing to take, the opportunities you notice or ignore, the way you speak about wealth. All of these are direct reflections of your deeper programming. When you change the programming, everything else shifts naturally. Your actions become different, your energy changes, and suddenly you start attracting the very opportunities that seemed impossible before. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to reprogram my mind," if you're starting to see how your own beliefs might have been working against you. The fascinating revelation that emerges when you start examining this deeper is that your current financial situation is like a perfect mirror reflecting back exactly what you believe about money at the deepest level. I'm not talking about what you post on social media about wanting financial freedom or what you tell your friends about your ambitions. I'm talking about that raw, unfiltered feeling you get when you check your bank balance, when a bill arrives, or when someone mentions they just made a significant investment. That split-second emotional response reveals everything. Do you feel excitement and possibility, or does your stomach tighten with anxiety? When you hear about someone else's financial success, do you genuinely feel inspired, or is there a subtle voice whispering that such things don't happen to people like you? These automatic reactions are your subconscious beliefs broadcasting loud and clear, and they're creating your financial reality with mathematical precision. This is where the journey gets really interesting because there's a forgotten principle that explains exactly how this internal programming becomes your external experience. Any thought that you hold consistently, that you charge with genuine emotion, and that you truly accept as real becomes a creative force in your life. The key word here isn't want or hope or wish, it's believe. What you actually believe, what you've accepted as truth in the deepest parts of your mind, that's what shows up in your bank account. Most people completely miss this distinction. They think they believe they can be wealthy because they want it so badly, but their true beliefs are revealed through their automatic thoughts and emotional responses. When they think about taking a financial risk, they immediately feel fear. When they consider raising their prices or asking for a promotion, they feel unworthy. When they imagine having significant wealth, they feel guilty or uncomfortable. These emotional reactions aren't random. They're the product of years of conditioning that created specific neural pathways in your brain. Every time you've thought, I can't afford this, every time you've felt anxious about money, every time you've told yourself, that's not realistic for someone like me, you've been strengthening the very mental infrastructure that keeps you financially limited. The hidden truth behind transformation is that your mind doesn't distinguish between what's happening in your imagination and what's happening in reality when the emotional charge is strong enough. This is why some people can visualize success once and feel completely energized and motivated, while others can repeat affirmations for years with no impact whatsoever. The difference lies in the emotional authenticity and the depth of genuine belief. When you truly accept something as possible for you, when you can imagine it so vividly that it feels real, when you can hold that vision with genuine excitement rather than desperate hoping, something remarkable happens in your subconscious mind. It begins reorganizing your perceptions, your decisions, and even your behavior to align with this new reality. You start noticing opportunities that were always there, but invisible to your previous programming. This isn't mystical thinking. It's how your brain's reticular activating system works. When you genuinely believe something is possible and important, your mind becomes a sophisticated filtering system that highlights everything relevant to that belief while filtering out contradictory information. Your decisions become different, your energy shifts, and people respond to you differently because you're operating from a completely different internal foundation. The revelations don't stop there, though, because understanding how beliefs create reality is just the beginning of this transformation process. Write in the comments, "My beliefs create my reality," if you're starting to recognize the connection between your internal programming and your current financial situation. What's truly remarkable about this discovery process is realizing that most of the limiting beliefs controlling your financial life weren't even your choice. They were installed through years of repetitive programming that you absorbed from family conversations, cultural messaging, and societal conditioning. Think about the phrases you heard growing up around money. Statements like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "We can't afford that," "Rich people are greedy," or "You have to work yourself to death to get ahead." These weren't just casual comments. They were powerful programming statements that your young mind accepted as absolute truth. Every time you heard these phrases, especially when they were spoken with strong emotion by people you trusted, they became another nail in an invisible mental prison that now surrounds your financial potential. The most insidious part is that you continue repeating these same limiting statements to yourself daily, reinforcing the very barriers that keep abundance locked out of your life. The hidden truth about this programming is that it operates like an invisible force field around opportunities. When a chance for financial growth appears, your conditioned mind automatically generates thoughts that protect you from taking action. You'll hear internal voices saying things like, "That's too risky. People like us don't do things like that," or "I better not get my hopes up." This isn't wisdom or prudence. It's your programming keeping you safely trapped within familiar limitations. One of the most toxic elements of this mental conditioning is the deeply embedded idea that you don't deserve significant wealth. This particular poison is especially dangerous because it disguises itself as humility and virtue. You might catch yourself thinking thoughts like, "Who am I to have that much money? I just want enough to get by," or "I don't need to be rich to be happy." While these statements sound modest and even admirable on the surface, they're actually mental bombs that destroy your capacity to attract and maintain wealth. The devastating impact of this false humility is that it makes you unconsciously reject opportunities before they can even develop. When you don't believe you deserve prosperity, you'll sabotage deals, undercharge for your services, avoid networking with successful people, and make decisions that keep you financially small. Your mind interprets these self-limiting choices as being a good person, when in reality you're just operating from fear disguised as virtue. This programming runs so deep that many people feel guilty even wanting financial success. They've been conditioned to believe that desire for wealth is somehow selfish or shallow, that truly good people should be content with struggle and limitation. This creates an internal war between your natural drive for growth and expansion and your programmed beliefs about what kind of person you should be. The journey toward financial transformation requires recognizing that claiming your right to abundance isn't arrogance, it's alignment with your true potential. When you deny yourself prosperity, you're not being humble, you're actually being disrespectful to the gifts and capabilities you were born with. Every time you think, "I don't need much," or "simple is better," you're reinforcing a belief system that will systematically block opportunities from reaching you. Behind the scenes of every financial breakthrough is someone who made the powerful decision to challenge these inherited limitations and declare themselves worthy of more. They recognized that their previous programming was keeping them trapped in cycles of financial mediocrity, and they chose to step into a new identity that could actually receive and maintain wealth. Write in the comments, "I deserve abundance," if you're ready to challenge the false humility that's been keeping you financially limited. The breakthrough moment in this transformation journey comes when you realize a fundamental truth that changes everything. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. This isn't just a philosophical concept, it's a practical reality that determines every financial outcome in your life. Right now, I want you to try something that will instantly reveal whether your internal programming is aligned with wealth or working against it. Close your eyes for a moment and truly visualize yourself as someone who has achieved significant financial success. Don't just think about having money. Actually see yourself living that reality. How do you carry yourself? What's your posture like when you walk into a room? How do you speak to others? What does it feel like to make decisions without worrying about cost? Can you maintain that vision without feeling uncomfortable, like you're pretending to be someone you're not? If you felt any discomfort, awkwardness, or that internal voice whispering, "That's not really me," then you've just discovered exactly why your financial situation hasn't changed despite your efforts. Your subconscious mind has a very clear image of who you are, and it will not allow your external reality to contradict that internal identity. This is the hidden mechanism behind why some people seem to naturally attract opportunities, while others struggle, regardless of how hard they work. Here's where this gets truly fascinating from a neurological perspective. Your subconscious mind operates on a principle that most people never understand. It cannot distinguish between what's vividly imagined and what's actually experienced. When you can genuinely see yourself as prosperous, when you can feel that reality in your body and emotions, rather than just thinking about it intellectually, your brain begins treating that vision as a memory of something that has already happened. If this conversation has shifted something in your thinking about money and success, hit that like button because it helps this content reach others who are ready for these revelations. This is why most people struggle with traditional visualization techniques. They're trying to imagine scenarios that feel completely foreign to their internal identity. When they picture themselves wealthy, it feels like they're imagining someone else's life, not their own. Their subconscious rejects these images because they don't match the stored data about who they believe themselves to be. The profound impact of this discovery is that your current financial reality isn't actually showing you what's possible for you. It's showing you what you currently believe is appropriate for someone like you. If you've never genuinely seen yourself as someone who naturally attracts wealth, if you've never felt comfortable in that identity, then your subconscious mind has no reference point for creating that experience in your life. This explains why lottery winners often lose their money within a few years, why people who inherit wealth sometimes squander it, and why those who build fortunes slowly tend to maintain them. It's not about the money itself, it's about whether their internal identity can sustain that level of prosperity. When your self-image doesn't match your external circumstances, your mind will unconsciously create situations that bring your reality back into alignment with your beliefs about yourself. The transformation process requires understanding that your imagination isn't just daydreaming. It's actually the most powerful programming tool you have access to. When you repeatedly visualize yourself as someone who naturally attracts and manages wealth, when you can feel that identity as genuine rather than forced, you're literally rewiring your brain to recognize prosperity as normal and expected rather than foreign and impossible. The journey from financial struggle to financial freedom isn't really about changing your circumstances. It's about expanding your identity to include prosperity as a natural expression of who you are. Write in the comments, "I can see my wealthy self," if you're beginning to understand how your internal identity has been shaping your financial reality. What you've just discovered about identity and wealth leads us to one of the most powerful revelations about why financial transformation can feel so challenging. Your self-image operates exactly like a thermostat in your home. Just as a thermostat maintains a specific temperature regardless of external conditions, your internal self-image maintains a specific level of financial comfort regardless of your external efforts. This is why you might have experienced moments where you started making more money, only to find that unexpected expenses appeared, or you made poor financial decisions that brought you back to your familiar baseline. It wasn't bad luck or coincidence. It was your internal thermostat working to restore the financial temperature that feels normal to you. Your mind will literally create circumstances that align with what it believes you deserve and can handle. The hidden truth behind this mechanism is that no amount of external strategies, affirmations, or motivational content can permanently override a self-image that's set too low. You might experience temporary improvements, brief periods where you push beyond your usual limits, but if your core identity hasn't shifted, you'll inevitably return to that familiar financial comfort zone. This is why some people can read every business book, attend seminars, and follow proven strategies, yet still find themselves stuck in the same patterns year after year. The transformation happens when you understand that changing your financial reality requires changing the thermostat setting, not just trying harder to heat up the room. This involves a specific type of mental conditioning that most people either don't know about or dismiss as impractical. The technique itself is surprisingly simple, but its impact on your subconscious programming is profound. Here's what this looks like in practice. You need to dedicate just 5 minutes each day to a very specific kind of mental rehearsal. This isn't about fantasizing or wishful thinking. It's about creating neural pathways that make prosperity feel familiar and natural to your subconscious mind. During these sessions, you don't observe yourself having wealth like you're watching a movie of someone else's life. Instead, you step completely into that identity and experience it from the inside. The key is to imagine yourself already living the lifestyle you desire, but not as a stranger visiting someone else's reality. You need to feel it, as if this prosperity has always been your natural state, as if you were born into this level of abundance, and it's simply who you've always been. This distinction is crucial because your subconscious needs to recognize this new identity as authentic rather than foreign. The emotional component is what makes this technique so powerful. When you can genuinely feel the confidence, peace, and natural ease that comes with financial security, when you can experience the joy of making decisions without financial stress, you're programming your mind at the deepest level. These aren't just pleasant thoughts, they're becoming new reference experiences that your brain treats as real memories. The timing of this practice is also critical for maximum impact. Your mind is most receptive to new programming during the twilight state, just before sleep. This is when your conscious, analytical mind becomes quieter and your subconscious becomes more open to accepting new information. What you program during these moments has the potential to influence your thoughts, decisions, and energy throughout the following day. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding why this particular approach works when other methods fail, because there's a specific neurological process happening during this visualization that most people completely miss. Write in the comments, "I'm reprogramming my thermostat," if you're ready to start changing your internal financial settings rather than just trying to force external results. The neurological process I mentioned reveals something that completely revolutionizes how we understand success and failure. You don't actually see reality as it exists. You see reality as you think it exists. This isn't just a philosophical concept. It's a measurable, neurological fact. Your brain processes millions of bits of information every second, but it can only consciously handle a tiny fraction of that data. The filter that determines what you notice, what you ignore, and how you interpret everything around you is controlled by your sustained thought patterns. When your thoughts about money, success, and opportunity are consistently charged with intensity and repeated with frequency, they gradually transform from fleeting ideas into solid beliefs. These beliefs then become the lens through which you view every financial situation, every business opportunity, and every potential path to prosperity. This is why two people can attend the same networking event, hear the same presentation, or encounter the same investment opportunity, yet walk away with completely different perceptions of what just happened. The hidden truth behind this process is that your beliefs don't just influence how you interpret events. They literally determine what events you're capable of seeing in the first place. If you believe that good opportunities are rare, your brain will filter out evidence of abundance and highlight every sign of scarcity. If you believe that people like you don't succeed in business, you'll unconsciously focus on stories of failure while overlooking countless examples of people with similar backgrounds who have thrived. What makes this discovery even more fascinating is recognizing that your invisible thoughts, the constant mental chatter that runs in the background of your consciousness, have far more influence over your results than any visible action you take. Think about the last time you lost out on a significant opportunity, whether it was a business deal, a job promotion, or an investment that could have changed your financial trajectory. Can you remember what you were thinking in the moments leading up to that missed chance? Most people discover that their mental soundtrack was playing exactly the wrong kind of music. They were thinking thoughts like, "This probably won't work out for me. I'm not qualified enough. Something always goes wrong," or "This is too good to be true." These thoughts weren't just pessimistic observations. They were active instructions to their subconscious mind about how to show up, what to say, how to present themselves, and ultimately, how to ensure that their expectations became reality. The behind-the-scenes impact of this internal dialogue is enormous because it influences everything from your body language and vocal tonality to your decision-making process and risk tolerance. When your invisible thoughts are aligned with limitation and doubt, you'll unconsciously sabotage opportunities through subtle behaviors that you're not even aware of. You might speak with less confidence, ask weaker questions, negotiate from a position of scarcity, or simply fail to follow through with the decisive action that would have made the difference. This is why affirmations alone rarely create lasting change. They're trying to override years of sustained negative thinking with a few minutes of positive statements. Real transformation requires understanding that every thought you think repetitively is either building neural pathways toward prosperity or strengthening the mental infrastructure of limitation. Your mind is constantly being programmed, whether you're conscious of it or not. The journey toward financial freedom requires taking complete ownership of this invisible programming and recognizing that your thoughts aren't just random mental events, they're the building blocks of your future reality. Write in the comments, My thoughts create my world. If you're starting to understand how your internal mental patterns have been shaping your external financial experiences. Taking ownership of your mental programming requires a specific approach that most people find surprisingly revealing about their own thought patterns. The transformation begins with a simple but powerful exercise that brings your unconscious mental habits into conscious awareness. For just 48 hours, you're going to become a detective of your own mind, observing every negative thought you have about money without trying to change it immediately. This observation process isn't about judging yourself or feeling guilty about limiting thoughts. It's about gathering data. Every time you catch yourself thinking something like, "I can't afford that, money is tight this month," or "that's not realistic for someone like me," you simply notice it and write it down. This awareness exercise reveals the hidden soundtrack that's been playing in the background of your consciousness, often without you even realizing it. What most people discover during this process is shocking. They realize they're having dozens of scarcity-based thoughts throughout the day, thoughts that have become so automatic they barely register in conscious awareness. These mental patterns have been running like background software, constantly programming their subconscious with instructions for limitation and lack. If these insights are resonating with something deeper inside you, hit that subscribe button, because this community is for people who are serious about rewriting their financial reality from the inside out. Once you've detected a limiting thought, the next step involves immediate intervention. You counter that negative programming with a deliberate, contrary affirmation spoken out loud. This isn't about forcing positivity or pretending everything is perfect. It's about disrupting the automatic pattern and installing a new instruction. When you catch yourself thinking, "This is too expensive," you immediately replace it with, "I always find a way to afford what's important to me." The real magic happens during the reprogramming sessions before sleep and upon waking. These are the golden windows when your conscious mind is quieter and your subconscious is most receptive to new information. During these moments, you're working with what's called suggestion, the primary language that your subconscious mind understands and responds to. Understanding suggestion is like discovering the operating system of human consciousness. It's the mechanism by which any idea travels from your conscious awareness into the deeper programming levels of your mind. Once an idea reaches your subconscious through repeated suggestion, it stops being just a thought and becomes a driving force that influences your actions, your perceptions, and ultimately your results. The hidden truth about suggestion is that it's always happening, whether you're directing it consciously or not. Every thought you repeat with emotional intensity, every belief you hold with conviction, every mental pattern you reinforce through repetition is using the power of suggestion to program your subconscious mind. The question isn't whether suggestion is affecting you. The question is whether you're using it intentionally or allowing it to happen randomly. This is why some people seem to naturally attract success while others struggle despite having similar opportunities and abilities. Those who succeed are often unconsciously using positive suggestion, reinforcing beliefs about their capabilities and their right to prosperity. Meanwhile, those who struggle are unknowingly using negative suggestion, constantly reinforcing beliefs about limitation, difficulty, and unworthiness. The journey toward financial transformation requires understanding that suggestion isn't just a technique you use occasionally. It's a fundamental process that's shaping your reality every single day through the thoughts you choose to entertain and repeat. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this programming actually creates tangible changes in your external circumstances, because there's a specific process by which internal suggestions become external manifestations. Write in the comments, "I control my mental programming," if you're ready to take conscious control of the suggestion process that's been running your financial life on autopilot. The process by which internal suggestions become external manifestations operates through a very specific mechanism that most people completely misunderstand. Your subconscious mind doesn't respond to casual words or half-hearted statements. It responds to messages that are charged with genuine feeling and delivered with consistent repetition. This is why people who mechanically repeat affirmations often see no results, while others who engage emotionally with their mental programming experience dramatic transformations. When you say something like, "I am wealth in movement," the power isn't in the words themselves, it's in how you feel while you're saying them. Your subconscious mind operates primarily through emotion and sensation, not logic and language. If you're repeating positive statements while feeling doubtful or disconnected, you're essentially sending mixed signals that cancel each other out. But when you speak these words while genuinely feeling them in your chest, while allowing them to resonate through your entire being, you're communicating in the language your subconscious actually understands. The timing and frequency of this emotional programming creates a cumulative effect that builds neural pathways toward prosperity. When you engage in this practice upon waking, you're setting the energetic tone for your entire day. Your midday session reinforces this programming when your conscious mind might be getting pulled back into old patterns. The evening session before sleep plants these suggestions directly into your subconscious during the most receptive time for mental conditioning. What makes this process even more powerful is understanding that your environment is constantly providing suggestion to your mind, whether you're aware of it or not. Every image you see regularly, every message you encounter throughout your day, every visual cue in your surroundings is either supporting your new programming or reinforcing your old limitations. This is why transformation requires taking conscious control of your environmental influences. The hidden truth about environmental programming is that your brain is always scanning for patterns and confirmation of your existing beliefs. When you strategically place visual reminders throughout your personal space, changing your phone wallpaper to something that represents abundance, putting notes on your mirror that say, "Money comes to me easily," or placing affirmations in your wallet where you'll see them regularly, you're creating a supportive ecosystem for your new mental programming. These environmental cues work because of how your brain's pattern recognition system operates. What you see consistently, you begin to accept as normal and expected. When prosperity-focused messages become part of your daily visual landscape, your subconscious starts treating wealth and abundance as familiar concepts rather than foreign possibilities. This familiarity is crucial because your mind naturally moves toward what feels comfortable and known. The cumulative impact of emotional repetition combined with environmental reinforcement creates a powerful reprogramming effect that reaches far beyond just changing your thoughts. This new programming begins influencing your body language, your vocal tonality, your decision-making process, and your energy when you interact with others. People start responding to you differently because you're operating from a different internal foundation. The journey from suggestion to manifestation happens through this gradual but persistent rewiring of your mental and emotional patterns. As your new programming becomes stronger and more established, you'll notice that opportunities begin appearing that align with your new identity. Conversations naturally steer toward topics that support your growth, and circumstances seem to organize themselves in ways that support your financial goals. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding why some people's programming takes hold immediately while others struggle to see results, because there's a critical factor that determines the effectiveness of this entire process. Write in the comments, "My environment supports my wealth," if you're committed to creating a complete ecosystem that reinforces your new financial programming both internally and externally. The critical factor that determines whether your programming takes hold quickly or meets resistance lies in understanding something most people never question. What you consider to be absolute truth is actually just a collection of beliefs you've accepted without examination. Your mind operates on a simple but powerful principle. It doesn't waste energy questioning what it believes is true. It simply executes those beliefs as if they were natural laws governing your reality. This revelation transforms everything because it means that the financial limitations you've been experiencing aren't based on unchangeable facts about the world or your capabilities. They're based on inherited beliefs that were planted in your subconscious by family conversations, cultural messaging, educational systems, and social conditioning. These beliefs feel like truth because they've been with you so long. But they're actually just programming that can be updated once you recognize it for what it is. Think about some of the financial truths you've carried throughout your life. Maybe you believe that money is hard to come by, that successful people are just lucky, that you have to sacrifice happiness for financial security, or that people from your background don't typically achieve wealth. These aren't universal truths. They're learned limitations that have been masquerading as reality because nobody ever taught you to question them. The hidden truth behind personal transformation is that you have far more control over your truth than you realize. What you currently accept as unchangeable facts about money, success, and your own potential are actually mental constructs that can be consciously redesigned. This is why some people can completely reinvent their financial lives while others remain stuck in the same patterns despite years of effort. The process of reformulating your personal truths begins with bringing these unconscious beliefs into conscious awareness. You need to identify the specific limiting beliefs that have been directing your financial decisions and write them down where you can examine them objectively. When you see these beliefs written on paper, separated from the emotional charge they carry in your mind, you begin to recognize them as learned concepts rather than immutable laws. Once you've identified a limiting belief, the transformation happens through deliberate replacement rather than trying to fight or eliminate the old programming. Your mind needs something to believe, so rather than creating a vacuum, you consciously choose a new, more expansive truth that serves your goals. If you've believed money is always a struggle for me, you replace it with money flows to me with increasing ease as I align with abundance. The key to making this replacement stick is understanding that repetition with intention is what creates new neural pathways. Your old beliefs became truth through years of unconscious repetition, so your new beliefs require conscious repetition until they feel just as natural and automatic. This isn't about positive thinking or wishful thinking, it's about systematically rewiring your mental operating system. What makes this process so effective is that your subconscious mind is actually neutral about which beliefs it executes. It doesn't prefer limitation over expansion or scarcity over abundance. It simply operates according to whatever programming has been installed most consistently and emotionally. When you provide it with new programming that's repeated with clear intention and genuine feeling, it begins incorporating these new instructions into your automatic response patterns. The journey of reformulating your personal truths requires recognizing that the beliefs limiting your financial growth aren't protecting you from anything real. They're just familiar mental habits that feel safe because they've been with you for so long. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this belief restructuring connects to one of the most overlooked aspects of wealth creation, the internal enemy that sabotages even the best programming efforts. Write in the comments, "I choose my own truths," if you're ready to take conscious control of the beliefs that have been unconsciously directing your financial reality. The internal enemy I mentioned reveals itself as the most overlooked aspect of wealth creation because it operates so cleverly that most people never realize they're under attack. Your greatest obstacle to financial success isn't the economy, the government, your educational background, or even your starting circumstances. The biggest barrier standing between you and prosperity is actually you. specifically the part of you that engages in self-sabotage. What makes self-sabotage so devastatingly effective is that it doesn't announce itself as destructive behavior. Instead, it disguises itself as reasonable thinking, practical caution, or even admirable humility. When you're about to take a significant step toward financial growth, self-sabotage shows up as thoughts like, maybe I should wait until I'm more prepared. This might be too risky right now, or I don't want to get my hopes up. These thoughts sound so logical and prudent that you accept them as wisdom, rather than recognizing them as fear-based programming designed to keep you safely trapped in familiar limitation. The hidden truth behind this pattern is that self-sabotage is actually a protection mechanism that your mind developed to shield you from potential disappointment, rejection, or failure. Your subconscious believes it's helping you by preventing situations where you might get hurt, embarrassed, or prove inadequate. But this misguided protection comes at an enormous cost. It systematically destroys opportunities before they can develop and keeps you operating far below your actual potential. What's particularly insidious about self-sabotage is how it operates through seemingly reasonable justifications. You might procrastinate on launching a business because you want to do more research. You might avoid networking events because you're not quite ready yet. You might undercharge for your services because you want to be fair and accessible. Each of these decisions feels logical in the moment, but they're actually subtle ways of avoiding the discomfort that comes with growth and expansion. The journey toward financial transformation requires understanding that you can't fight self-sabotage with willpower or force. Trying to overcome these patterns through sheer determination usually backfires because it creates internal conflict rather than resolution. The more you fight against these self-protective mechanisms, the stronger they become, because your mind interprets the fight as confirmation that there really is something to be afraid of. Instead, the solution lies in developing consciousness, the ability to observe your own mental and emotional patterns without getting caught up in them. When you can notice self-sabotage as it's happening, when you can recognize those familiar thoughts and feelings that precede self-defeating decisions, something remarkable occurs. The pattern loses its automatic power over you because you're no longer unconsciously following its instructions. This consciousness isn't about judging yourself or trying to immediately change every limiting pattern. It's about developing the capacity to step back and observe your own mental processes with curiosity rather than criticism. When you can catch yourself thinking, I'm not ready for this opportunity, and recognize it as a familiar self-sabotage pattern rather than an accurate assessment of reality, you create space between the thought and your response to it. The impact of this awareness is transformative because self-sabotage thrives in unconsciousness. When these patterns operate below the level of conscious awareness, they have complete control over your decisions and behaviors. But when you shine the light of consciousness on them, when you see them clearly for what they are, they begin to lose their grip on your life. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how this self-awareness translates into practical changes in your decision-making process, because there's a specific moment in every opportunity where the battle between growth and self-sabotage is won or lost. Write in the comments, I see my self-sabotage patterns, if you're starting to recognize how your own protective mechanisms might have been disguising themselves as reasonable thinking while keeping you financially limited. The specific moment where the battle between growth and self-sabotage is won or lost happens at the point of decision. This isn't about small daily choices or minor adjustments to your routine. This is about those pivotal moments when you have the opportunity to fundamentally change your trajectory, but you hesitate because the conditions don't feel perfect yet. Understanding this moment is crucial because your reality doesn't transform when you feel ready for it. It transforms when you make an irreversible decision to move forward regardless of your feelings. The hidden truth that separates those who achieve financial transformation from those who remain stuck is recognizing that the ideal moment you're waiting for will never arrive. You'll never feel completely prepared, never have all your questions answered, never eliminate every doubt or fear. If you're waiting until you're certain about the outcome, until you have enough money saved, until you feel confident enough, or until the market conditions are perfect, you'll be waiting forever, because certainty is a luxury that growth doesn't provide. This is where most people get trapped in an endless cycle of preparation without execution. They convince themselves they're being responsible by waiting, but what they're actually doing is using the illusion of getting ready to avoid the discomfort of taking action without guarantees. The mind is incredibly clever at creating reasonable-sounding justifications for inaction, and it will continue generating new reasons to wait as long as you keep accepting them as valid. The transformation happens when you understand that decision is an energy that cuts through uncertainty and creates momentum. When you make a truly irreversible decision, not a casual intention or a hopeful wish, but a deep internal commitment that says, "I'm doing this regardless of what happens," something shifts in your entire energy field. Your subconscious mind recognizes this decisiveness and begins organizing your thoughts, perceptions, and behaviors around making that decision successful. But here's what most people miss about the power of decision. Your subconscious mind responds more powerfully to actions than to thoughts. While mental programming is crucial, there's something about engaging your body in the decision-making process that creates deeper neural pathways and stronger emotional imprinting. This is why decision rituals can be so transformative when they're done with genuine intention and emotional engagement. The process involves creating a physical ceremony that marks the transition from your old identity to your new one. When you write your decision clearly and read it aloud while looking yourself in the eyes through a mirror, you're engaging multiple senses and creating a vivid memory that your subconscious can reference. The act of burning or tearing up a paper that represents your old limiting mentality isn't just symbolic. It's actual programming, because your subconscious mind processes these emotionally charged physical actions as real events that signal significant change. What makes these rituals so effective is that they bypass the analytical mind and speak directly to the emotional centers of your brain, where your deepest programming resides. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between symbolic actions and literal reality when they're performed with genuine emotion and clear intention. This physical ceremony creates a reference point that your mind returns to whenever doubt or old patterns try to resurface. The impact of this approach goes far beyond just feeling motivated or inspired. When you engage in a decision ritual with complete commitment, you're literally rewiring your nervous system to support your new identity. Your body begins holding itself differently, your voice carries more conviction, and your energy shifts in ways that other people can sense and respond to. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how this shift in decision-making energy translates into attracting different opportunities, because there's a specific vibrational change that occurs when someone moves from hoping to deciding that completely alters their magnetic field for wealth. Write in the comments, "I make irreversible decisions," if you're ready to stop waiting for perfect conditions and start creating momentum through committed action. The vibrational change that occurs when someone moves from hoping to deciding creates a completely different magnetic field for attracting wealth, and this reveals one of the most counterintuitive truths about financial success. The universe doesn't compensate you based on how hard you work or how much effort you put in. It responds to the energy from which you operate. This is why you can see people working incredibly long hours, following all the right strategies and pushing themselves to exhaustion, yet barely making ends meet, while others seem to attract opportunities and abundance with what appears to be much less effort. The difference isn't in their talent, education, or even their work ethic. The difference lies in the energetic frequency they're broadcasting while they work. When someone operates from desperation, fear, or need, they're unconsciously repelling the very thing they're trying to attract. Money doesn't flow toward desperation because desperate energy feels unstable and unreliable. Instead, money gravitates toward those who vibrate with confidence, certainty, and inner abundance, regardless of their current external circumstances. This revelation transforms everything about how you approach wealth creation because it means you don't need to work harder. You need to work from a different energetic foundation. When your energy is aligned with abundance rather than scarcity, when you operate from inner certainty rather than outer desperation, you naturally attract different opportunities, different people, and different outcomes. Your decisions become clearer, your communication becomes more compelling, and people respond to you differently because they can sense your energetic state, even when they can't consciously identify what's changed. The transformation of your energetic frequency requires understanding that emotions aren't just internal experiences. They're broadcasting signals that influence how others perceive and interact with you. When you're operating from anxiety about money, that anxiety shows up in your voice, your posture, your word choices, and your decision-making process. Conversely, when you're genuinely aligned with abundance consciousness, that alignment becomes evident in every aspect of how you show up in the world. The practical application of this principle involves creating daily rituals that shift you from whatever scattered or stressed state you might wake up in into a clear, centered, aligned frequency. This isn't about pretending to feel abundant when you don't. It's about accessing genuine states of gratitude, appreciation, and inner certainty that naturally elevate your energetic vibration. When you close your eyes and breathe deeply, when you deliberately connect with something that generates real gratitude in your heart, you're not just changing your mood, you're changing your magnetic field. From this elevated state, when you declare, "I am in harmony with money, everything I give returns multiplied. My energy is already attracting perfect opportunities." You're not speaking empty words into the void. You're programming your nervous system and broadcasting a signal that aligns with wealth consciousness. This practice works because your subconscious mind is constantly monitoring your energetic state and adjusting your perceptions, decisions, and behaviors to match that frequency. The hidden truth behind this energy alignment is that it creates a feedback loop that becomes increasingly powerful over time. As you consistently operate from aligned energy, you attract better opportunities, which gives you more reasons to feel grateful and confident, which elevates your energy even further, which attracts even better opportunities. This upward spiral is how some people seem to effortlessly magnetize success, while others struggle despite tremendous effort. The journey toward financial transformation requires recognizing that your energy is your most valuable asset, more important than your resume, your connections, or even your skills, because energy determines how effectively you can use everything else. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how this energy alignment reveals itself in the quality of silence and inner dialogue, because there's a hidden conversation happening within you that's either supporting or sabotaging your wealth attraction on a moment-by-moment basis. Write in the comments, "My energy attracts abundance," if you're beginning to understand how your internal state has been determining your external financial results. The hidden conversation happening within you operates on a frequency so subtle that most people never realize it's controlling their financial destiny. We live in a world of constant noise. Information, notifications, conversations, background sounds that effectively masks the most important dialogue taking place. The internal conversation between you and your deepest beliefs about money, success, and your own worthiness. This constant external stimulation isn't accidental. It keeps you distracted from discovering the real programming that's been running your financial life from behind the scenes. When you finally create space for genuine silence, when you remove all the distractions and sit quietly with yourself for just 5 minutes, something remarkable happens. The beliefs that have been operating below your conscious awareness begin to surface. These aren't the thoughts you think about money when you're trying to be positive or motivated. These are the raw, unfiltered beliefs that your subconscious mind has been carrying, sometimes for decades, without your conscious knowledge. The revelation that emerges from this silence often surprises people because they discover internal voices saying things they would never consciously choose to believe. Thoughts like, "I'm not good enough for real success," "People like me don't get rich," "There's something wrong with wanting money," or "I always mess things up when they start going well." These aren't casual negative thoughts. They're core programming that's been influencing every financial decision, every opportunity response, and every level of action you've taken or avoided. What makes this discovery process so transformative is understanding that these limiting beliefs weren't formed through logical analysis or careful consideration. They were installed during emotional moments, often in childhood or during times of stress, when your mind was most open to accepting new programming. A parent's frustrated comment about money, a teacher's dismissive remark about your potential, a failure that you interpreted as evidence of your inadequacy. These moments created neural pathways that have been running your financial life ever since. The silent revelation exercise works because it bypasses the protective mechanisms that normally keep these beliefs hidden. When you sit quietly, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, what do I really think about money? You're creating a direct pathway to your subconscious programming. The key is to wait and observe what emerges rather than trying to generate positive thoughts or control the process. Your mind will reveal exactly what it's been believing, and this awareness is the first step toward transformation. The practice requires approaching these revelations without judgment or immediate resistance. When a limiting belief surfaces, the natural tendency is to either push it away or start arguing with it mentally. But the most powerful approach is to simply observe it, acknowledge it, and write it down. Seeing these beliefs on paper removes some of their emotional charge and helps you recognize them as learned programming rather than unchangeable truths about reality. The transformation occurs in the moment when you consciously declare, "This no longer defines me. Today, I choose a new belief." This isn't just positive thinking, it's conscious reprogramming. You're taking ownership of beliefs that were installed without your permission and making a deliberate choice to update your mental software. This declaration, made from a place of clarity rather than emotional reactivity, begins the process of replacing old programming with new, more supportive beliefs. The journey of working with silence reveals that most of your financial limitations aren't actually about external circumstances. They're about internal conversations that have been operating on autopilot, creating the very circumstances you've been experiencing. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how these internal revelations translate into external changes in the way you communicate about money, because there's a direct connection between your private thoughts and your public words that determines whether wealth flows toward you or away from you. Write in the comments, "I hear my hidden beliefs," if you're ready to face whatever limiting programming has been operating below your conscious awareness and take control of your internal financial dialogue. The direct connection between your private thoughts and your public words creates a feedback loop that either accelerates your wealth attraction or systematically dismantles it. Most people completely underestimate the power of their everyday language, treating words as casual expressions of their current circumstances. But here's what they don't realize. Words aren't harmless commentary on your situation. They're active programming instructions that your subconscious mind receives and executes without question or debate. Every time you speak about money, whether in casual conversation or private self-talk, you're essentially placing an order with the universe. about what you expect and what you believe you deserve. Your subconscious mind doesn't analyze whether your words are accurate descriptions of reality or just temporary emotional expressions. It simply receives these verbal instructions and begins organizing your perceptions, decisions, and behaviors to make them true. This is why people often find themselves trapped in cycles that seem to confirm their worst financial fears. When someone repeatedly says things like, "I never have enough money," "bills keep piling up," or "I can't catch a break financially," they're not just venting their frustration. They're programming their subconscious to continue creating experiences that validate these statements. The mind will literally filter opportunities, influence decision-making, and adjust behavior patterns to maintain consistency with whatever you declare as true. The hidden truth behind this programming mechanism is that your subconscious doesn't distinguish between describing your current situation and creating your future situation. When you say money goes away too quickly, your mind interprets this as an instruction to maintain that pattern. It will unconsciously guide you towards spending decisions, investment choices, and financial behaviors that ensure money continues disappearing from your life at a rapid pace. The transformation happens when you understand that changing your language isn't about denial or pretending your current challenges don't exist. It's about consciously choosing to program your future instead of unconsciously reinforcing your past. This requires developing awareness of your habitual money language and making deliberate replacements that point your subconscious toward the experiences you actually want to create. Instead of saying, "I don't have enough money," you begin declaring, "I'm developing better systems for managing and attracting money, and new sources are opening up for me." Rather than complaining that money disappears too fast, you start affirming, "Money circulates through my life with perfect timing, and what I give always returns multiplied." These aren't just positive affirmations. They're strategic reprogramming statements that redirect your mental energy towards solutions and opportunities rather than problems and limitations. The impact of this language transformation extends far beyond just changing how you think. When you consistently speak about money from a place of expansion rather than contraction, other people sense this shift in your energy and begin responding to you differently. Potential clients, business partners, and investors pick up on confidence and abundance consciousness, even when they can't consciously identify what's changed about your communication style. The journey of transforming your financial language requires vigilant awareness because these speech patterns have been operating automatically for years. You need to catch yourself in the moment when scarcity language is about to emerge and consciously choose more empowering expressions. This isn't about being fake or forcing positivity. It's about taking responsibility for the programming you're creating through your words. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how this language transformation connects to one of the most fundamental aspects of wealth attraction, the identity you're willing to claim and sustain, because there's a specific relationship between the words you speak and the financial identity your mind will allow you to maintain. Write in the comments, "My words create my wealth," if you're ready to take conscious control of the language patterns that have been unconsciously programming your financial future. The specific relationship between the words you speak and the financial identity your mind allows you to maintain reveals one of the most powerful yet overlooked principles of wealth creation. Your bank account balance isn't actually showing you how much money you have. It's showing you the level of financial identity you're currently willing to sustain. This distinction changes everything because it means your external financial circumstances are always perfectly aligned with your internal sense of who you are and what you deserve. Money doesn't attach itself to people based on their talent, education, hard work, or even their desire for wealth. Money flows to and remains with those whose identity can comfortably hold it. This is why lottery winners often lose. their fortunes within a few years, why inherited wealth sometimes gets squandered, and why self-made millionaires who lose everything often rebuild their fortunes relatively quickly. The external circumstances change, but the underlying identity remains the determining factor. Your financial identity operates like an internal regulator that will not allow your external reality to stray too far from what it believes you can handle and deserve. If your core identity says, "I'm someone who struggles with money, I'm not good with finances, or people like me don't have significant wealth," then no matter what strategies you try or opportunities you encounter, your subconscious will create circumstances that bring your reality back in line with that identity. The transformation process requires understanding that your current financial identity wasn't chosen consciously. It was constructed through years of inherited beliefs, cultural conditioning, and personal experiences that you've never questioned. The phrases you use to describe yourself financially, the assumptions you make about your capabilities, and the limits you place on what's possible for you are all learned constructs that can be consciously examined and rebuilt. The reconstruction begins with honest self-examination of the language you use when thinking or talking about yourself and money. Do you describe yourself as someone who's bad with money, always broke, not a business person, or just getting by? These aren't neutral descriptions. They're identity statements that your subconscious treats as instructions for creating your reality. Each of these phrases carries the weight of limiting your financial potential. The next step involves tracing these identity beliefs back to their origins. Where did you first learn that you weren't good with money? What experiences shaped your belief about your financial capabilities? What did authority figures tell you about money and your relationship to it? Often, you'll discover that these limiting identity beliefs were formed during childhood or emotional moments, when your mind was most susceptible to accepting new programming as absolute truth. The powerful question becomes, who would you be if you stopped believing these inherited limitations? If you released the idea that you're not financially capable, not deserving of wealth, or not the type of person who succeeds with money, what identity would emerge? This isn't about creating a fantasy version of yourself. It's about removing the artificial constraints that have been masquerading as reality. The reconstruction process requires writing your new financial identity as if you already embody it completely, not as a future goal or wishful thinking, but as a present reality that you're stepping into. This new identity description should feel slightly uncomfortable because it's stretching you beyond your current comfort zone, but it should also feel genuine and achievable rather than completely foreign. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how this identity reconstruction translates into practical changes in how you approach financial opportunities, because there's a dramatic shift that occurs when you stop chasing money and start becoming someone money naturally seeks out. Write in the comments, "I choose my financial identity," if you're ready to stop accepting inherited limitations about your money capabilities and start consciously designing who you are in relationship to wealth. The dramatic shift that occurs when you stop chasing money and start becoming someone money naturally seeks out fundamentally changes your entire approach to financial opportunities. This transformation reveals one of the most counterintuitive truths about wealth creation. The more desperately you pursue money, the more it seems to slip away from you. But when you shift your focus from trying to get money to becoming the type of person who naturally attracts it, everything changes in your favor. The hidden truth behind this principle is that money, like all forms of energy, moves away from desperation and toward confidence. When you approach financial opportunities from a place of need, anxiety, or desperation, you unconsciously broadcast signals that repel abundance. Your body language becomes more tense, your communication becomes less clear, your decision-making becomes clouded by fear, and your energy feels unstable to others. People can sense Desperation even when they can't consciously identify what feels off about an interaction. Conversely, when you operate from the identity of someone who already deserves wealth, who brings value to every situation, who makes decisions from clarity rather than desperation, you become magnetic to opportunities. This isn't about pretending or putting on an act. It's about genuinely transforming your internal foundation so that abundance consciousness becomes your natural state rather than something you're trying to achieve. The transformation happens through a daily practice of embodying your prosperous identity before you have external evidence to support it. Each morning, instead of asking, "How can I make more money today?" you ask yourself, "Am I today someone worthy of abundance?" This question shifts your focus from what you can get to who you can become, and that shift changes everything about how you show up in the world. The answer to this question must come through actions, not just thoughts or intentions. You need to do at least one thing each day that represents how your prosperous self would think, feel, or behave. This might mean investing in your education even when money feels tight, dressing with more intention and care, speaking with greater confidence in business conversations, or making decisions based on value rather than fear. These actions aren't about spending money you don't have. They're about embodying the energy and mindset of prosperity, regardless of your current circumstances. What makes this approach so powerful is that it reverses the typical cause and effect relationship that most people believe governs wealth creation. Instead of waiting to feel abundant until you have money, you start generating abundance consciousness first, and the money follows. This isn't magical thinking. It's understanding that your internal state determines your external results through the decisions you make, the energy you broadcast, and the opportunities you are able to recognize and act upon. The journey from chasing money to attracting money requires understanding that your worthiness isn't dependent on your current bank balance, your past failures, or your current circumstances. Your worthiness is a choice you make about how you see yourself and how you decide to show up in every interaction. When you operate from this foundation of inner certainty, others feel it and respond accordingly. The behind-the-scenes transformation that occurs is that you stop operating from scarcity and start operating from abundance, which creates a magnetic field that draws opportunities, people, and resources toward you rather than away from you. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how this magnetic transformation connects to one of the most fundamental shifts in consciousness. Recognizing that your current financial situation is not a permanent reality, but a temporary reflection of old programming that can be completely rewritten. Write in the comments, "Money chases me now," if you're ready to stop pursuing wealth from desperation and start attracting it through the magnetic power of your transformed identity. The magnetic transformation you're experiencing connects to one of the most fundamental shifts in consciousness. Recognizing that what you've been accepting as your permanent financial reality is actually nothing more than a temporary reflection of outdated programming. Your current economic situation, no matter how challenging or limiting it might appear, isn't a life sentence. It's simply a snapshot of where your old beliefs and stories have led you up to this point. This revelation is both liberating and initially disorienting, because it challenges the very foundation of how most people understand their relationship with money. You've been conditioned to believe that your bank balance, your debt levels, your income constraints, and your financial struggles represent solid, unchangeable realities. But here's the hidden truth that transforms everything. These external circumstances aren't real in any permanent sense. They're just the current physical manifestation of your most deeply held internal beliefs about money, success, and your own worthiness. Understanding this means recognizing that you're not actually trapped by your economic circumstances. You're only trapped by the story you've been telling yourself about those circumstances. Every time you look at your financial situation and think, "This is just how things are for me," "I've always struggled with money," or "people like me don't get ahead financially," you're reinforcing the very narrative that keeps creating more of the same experience. The transformation happens when you realize that stories can be rewritten and new stories create new realities. Your financial story isn't a factual historical record. It's a collection of interpretations, assumptions, and beliefs about what's possible for you. These interpretations were formed during emotional moments, often in childhood, and they've been running your financial life ever since. But just as they were learned, they can be unlearned and replaced with narratives that actually serve your growth. The process of rewriting your financial story requires brutal honesty followed by conscious creativity. You need to write down your old story without any filters or attempts to make it sound better than it feels. This means acknowledging every limiting belief, every fear, every assumption about why money has been challenging for you. This isn't about dwelling in negativity, it's about bringing unconscious programming into conscious awareness, where it can be examined and changed. Once you've written your old story, the next step involves asking yourself a question that can shatter the illusion of permanence. What if none of this were true? This question opens a crack in the rigid structure of your financial identity and allows new possibilities to emerge. What if your past financial struggles don't predict your future? What if your family background doesn't determine your potential? What if your previous failures were just learning experiences rather than evidence of your limitations? From this expanded perspective, you write your new financial story in present tense, as if you're already living it. This isn't fantasy or wishful thinking. It's conscious programming. You're creating a new narrative that your subconscious can use as a blueprint for generating different experiences. When you write, "I am someone who naturally attracts financial opportunities," instead of "I hope to someday be financially successful," you're giving your mind clear instructions about the identity you're choosing to embody. The behind-the-scenes impact of this story transformation is profound because your subconscious mind will begin organizing your perceptions, decisions, and behaviors around whatever narrative you consistently reinforce. When your internal story changes, your external circumstances must eventually follow. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how this story transformation requires absolute clarity about what you're actually creating, because there's a critical difference between vague hopes and precise intentions that determines whether your new story becomes reality or remains just another fantasy. Write in the comments, "I rewrite my financial story," if you're ready to stop accepting your current circumstances as permanent and start consciously creating the narrative that will shape your financial future. The critical difference between vague hopes and precise intentions determines whether your new story becomes reality or remains trapped in the realm of wishful thinking. This is where most people unknowingly sabotage their transformation process. They create beautiful new narratives about financial success, but these stories lack the specific clarity that allows manifestation to occur. The universe operates on precision, not generalities. And if you don't know exactly what you want, money literally doesn't know where to find you. When you say things like, "I want to be financially free," or "I'd like to have more money," you're essentially giving the universe a vague address without specific coordinates. Financial freedom means different things to different people. It could be having enough to pay bills without stress, or it could mean having millions in passive income. More money could be an extra $100 a month or an extra 100,000. Without precision, your subconscious mind has no clear target to move toward, and your conscious actions remain scattered and unfocused. The transformation requires defining exactly what you want to create, a specific amount, a concrete purpose for that money, and a realistic timeline for its arrival. This isn't about limiting yourself or being small in your thinking. It's about giving your mind clear, Instructions that can be translated into actionable steps. When you declare, I am attracting $25,000 over the next 6 months to launch my consulting business and create my first investment fund, you've created a precise target that your subconscious can work toward. But here's where the journey gets even more revealing, because even when people develop crystal-clear financial goals, many still struggle to attract what they've defined. The hidden barrier isn't lack of clarity. It's an unconscious fear of money that operates so subtly, most people never realize it exists. This fear doesn't announce itself as, I'm afraid of money. Instead, it disguises itself as practical concerns, moral high ground, or protective instincts. The truth is that deep down, many people are unconsciously rejecting the very thing they claim to want. They say they want financial abundance, but internally, they're terrified of what money might bring, the responsibility, the potential for loss, the fear of changing relationships, the worry about being judged or envied by others. These fears create an internal conflict where part of you is pulling toward wealth while another part is pushing it away. This internal rejection often stems from inherited beliefs about money that associate it with negative outcomes. If you grew up hearing that money changes people, the rich are selfish, or money brings problems, your subconscious developed protective mechanisms to keep you safe from these perceived dangers. Your mind interpreted wealth as a threat to your safety, relationships, or moral integrity, so it created subtle but powerful barriers to prevent you from attracting what it believes could harm you. The fear manifests in countless small ways that most people dismiss as unrelated to money. You might procrastinate on income-generating activities, undercharge for your services, feel guilty when spending money on yourself, or unconsciously sabotage deals just as they're about to close. These aren't character flaws or lack of motivation. They're protective mechanisms activated by unconscious fear programming. The journey toward genuine wealth attraction requires recognizing and dismantling these hidden fears, because no amount of positive thinking or strategic action can overcome internal rejection. When your conscious mind wants money, but your subconscious fears it, the internal conflict creates self-sabotage that feels like external obstacles but is actually internally generated resistance. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how this fear of money connects to one of the most fundamental blocks to wealth: the unconscious belief that you're not valuable enough to command significant financial resources, because there's a direct relationship between your sense of self-worth and your ability to attract and maintain prosperity. Write in the comments, I welcome money without fear, if you're ready to examine and release the hidden fears that have been unconsciously protecting you from the wealth you consciously desire. The direct relationship between your sense of self-worth and your ability to attract and maintain prosperity reveals the deepest layer of wealth consciousness that most people never address. Money doesn't arrive to give you value. It only flows toward those who already recognize their inherent worth and can hold that recognition consistently, regardless of external circumstances. This is why people with genuine self-esteem often attract opportunities and resources even when they're not actively pursuing them, while others who work incredibly hard but feel unworthy internally continue struggling despite their efforts. When you operate from a place of feeling small, inadequate, or undeserving, you unconsciously broadcast signals that repel abundance. Your energy contracts, your voice loses power, your body language shrinks, and your decision-making becomes hesitant and apologetic. Money, being an energy that responds to confidence and certainty, simply doesn't recognize this contracted state as a stable place to flow. It's not personal or punitive. It's energetic alignment. Wealth gravitates toward those who feel worthy of receiving and capable of managing it responsibly. The hidden truth behind this dynamic is that your self-worth isn't dependent on your accomplishments, your bank balance, or external validation. Your worth is an internal recognition that exists independently of circumstances, and it can be activated regardless of where you're starting from financially. The transformation happens when you understand that feeling worthy isn't something you earn through success. It's something you claim as your birthright, and then success follows as a natural consequence. This journey toward recognizing your inherent value requires understanding that every moment you spend doubting your worth, questioning your capabilities, or comparing yourself unfavorably to others is energy that could be invested in creating the life you actually want. The universe doesn't respond to self-deprecation or false humility. It responds to clear, confident energy that knows its own value and isn't afraid to claim it. The transformation reaches its culmination when you arrive at the moment of irreversible decision. This isn't about gathering more information, developing more skills, or waiting for better circumstances. Everything you need to begin transforming your financial reality is already available to you right now. The only missing element is the decision itself, the moment when you stop preparing to change your life and start actually changing it. This decision isn't casual or conditional. It's not, "I'll try this approach and see what happens," or "maybe this will work if conditions improve." It's a complete internal commitment that says, "I am done living with financial limitation. I am done accepting less than I'm capable of creating. I am done waiting for permission from the world to step into my power." This quality of decision carries a vibrational frequency that the universe recognizes and responds to with synchronicities, opportunities, and resources. The energy of true decision cuts through uncertainty, doubt, and confusion like a blade through fog. When you make this kind of irreversible commitment to your financial transformation, your subconscious mind stops generating reasons why it won't work and starts generating ways to make it happen. Your perceptions shift, your actions become more decisive, and your energy becomes magnetic to the very things you've been trying to attract. When you activate these dormant potentials through irreversible commitment, you join a very select group of people who understand that wealth creation is an inside job. The capabilities you need, the wisdom to make the right decisions, the magnetism to attract opportunities, all of this already exists within you, waiting for the moment when your commitment proves you're ready to access it. If you've made it to this point in our conversation, something inside you has been awakened. You're not the same person who started watching this video because now you understand the hidden mechanics behind financial transformation. You've discovered that changing your relationship with money isn't about learning new tactics. It's about remembering who you really are beneath all the conditioning and limitations you've been carrying. This kind of content doesn't reach everyone, and it doesn't resonate with everyone who encounters it. But if these ideas have been speaking to something deep within you, if you've felt that recognition of truth throughout our time together, then you're exactly where you need to be. Consider subscribing to this channel because we're going to continue exploring these deeper principles of consciousness and success that most people never get access to. This isn't just about money, it's about unlocking every area of your life that's been operating below its potential. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, write in the comments, "This message was meant for me," so I know you're part of this community of people who are serious about transformation, not just entertainment. And if this conversation has shifted something in your thinking, hit that like button because it helps this content reach others who are ready for these revelations. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into the practical steps for implementing these principles in your daily life. Click and continue with me over there, because your transformation is just beginning, and there's so much more to discover about the power you've always carried within you.